Welcome everyone to our 38th episode. This is a space where I want to empower you all to be relationship experts. I'm Kimia Shahzadi, founder of Love Story, a matchmaking and love coaching company. If you ever want help with finding or keeping love, don't hesitate to reach out. Some background about me: I have a master's in clinical behavioral psychology, specializing in relationships. Welcome everyone to our 38th episode. This is a space where I want to empower you all. Okay, I am trying to navigate.
Deja vu.
No, I'm trying to navigate Instagram, TikTok, X all at once, and I am still figuring it out. So bear with me, everyone. We are on Spotify as well now, so it's all happening in the last few weeks. All right, so where were we? So if you're interested in reading any of my studies that I've written, they're on Google Scholar. Happily married for 5 years, helped over 100 people with their relationships, and matched over 20 couples. We're excited to be building an app called Love Story that will have more information soon as the months go by. But right now, I'd like to welcome my husband and my brother Omid, who's in the audience today. So excited to have you here. And yeah, excited to jump in. So today's topic is on gaslighting. And this is a term that gets thrown around these days. I've heard it, mentioned quite a bit. And a lot of people don't exactly know what it means. They might think they know what it means, but hopefully today you will know a little bit more about gaslighting, know when to use it, know how to handle it if you see it being used, know when you're doing it.
When to use it?
When to use it if there's a time. Like that one we need to explore. If there's a time we...
Did you just say that?
I don't
Is there a time?
I don't think so, but I'm just
Okay.
leaving that little window open just in case. So let's explore this further, you guys. All right, so with gaslighting, let's jump in. So where did it even start from? So apparently Gaslight is a play. This is how it started, and then it turned into a movie. And so the play was from 1938, a long time ago, and then the movie was from 1944. And essentially the whole movie is about a woman who moved into this house with her husband, and the husband keeps moving things around in the house and turning the gas light up and down and claiming that she's imagining things, and like that she's lost her sanity pretty much. So psychological manipulation, that's the term gaslighting. And yeah, so pretty much undermining another's reality or sanity for their own gain. So this doesn't seem like there's any situations where that seems good, now that we've understood the definition of what it means. But let's dive into it more. So this is kind of where this phrase came from, but let's explore it more in detail. So sometimes you might hear, and this is a lot of the times, on Reddit, where or like shown in sitcoms or movies or TV shows, that someone will be like, "You're gaslighting me. I can't believe you. You're such a narcissist. And I don't want to be around this toxic environment. Don't talk to me." And or just like really big statements like that. And so something that I want us to be able to think about is that a healthy response? And hopefully you can all say no. And but the real question is, how do we know that's not a healthy response? Like, what are the actual like details of it? And we are attacking someone's character with these statements. We're calling them a narcissist. We're saying they're toxic. So things that can be hit against someone's character. And if we're actually trying to build a relationship with someone, attacking character and attacking someone's identity is not the way to go. You want to attack the person's gaslighting behavior, like the specific behavior that you're defining as gaslighting. And then that's something that can be worked on and improved. So even if you feel slighted, please, if you want to, try and have healthy communication, you always want to attack behavior, not character. And that also applies in context of gaslighting too. So let's explore this further. So, and also, if you feel like anything is bothering you, we want to attack it at the point where it's still at a specific behavior stage, where it's happened the first time, the second time, where we can catch it in the bud, and we're not holding on to stuff. And the stereotype of when you're having an argument and then someone brings up, "Oh, all of these other times that you've done this, what about that?" And so we want to address things in the bud. So it's still hard. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's much easier to have at that point than later on when things build up and you keep throwing things back from the past instead of addressing them so you can properly let them go. So that's a consideration. I think the biggest thing whenever I want to address, in this day and age, everyone's talking about, it's like we don't need anyone else. Like, we just need to love ourselves. And like, there's a lot of good stuff and merit to that. But I want us to still remember that we are social creatures, and we want to be around love and, healthy love and healthy relationships around us. And so a big element of that is also realizing, everyone makes mistakes, including ourselves. And so the biggest kind of variable and factor we want to look into with, a potential partner, if we're still in the dating phase, or something that we really want to encourage if we're committed to someone, is growth. Like that growth mentality, and how much someone has that mentality, and to keep and keep making that stronger and stronger. And the reason I say that is because if someone displays gaslighting behavior, if they're growth oriented and they can change with their actions and show you improvement, then they can overcome this gaslighting behavior. They can overcome other mistakes that we all make. And that's a really, really good trait that I wish everyone had, and everyone had lots of. So that's the real key measure. So just because someone maybe gaslights you once, don't just immediately write them off. Obviously, context matters, and I wouldn't know the situation, but do assess for growth if you see the relationship is worth fighting for. And if you are the one that has gaslit someone else, intentionally or unintentionally, and you want to improve, focus on growth. Focus on the accountability. I'm sorry, I did the wrong thing, and we're going to unpack the reasons why people do it in just a bit. But acknowledge it and be like, I am going to show you that I'm going to work on this, and this isn't going to happen again, or it's going to happen much less as I work through it and improve. So please, the key part of this is growth that you want to see in your partner, and encourage it and make sure they have that, because that is the main thing that can help set up relationships to be really healthy. Okay, so what is a super, super classic example of gaslighting, so we can try and get a little more specific with this? So person A, you promised to help me with the project tonight. Person B, no, I didn't. You must have misunderstood or misremembered. Person A, I distinctly remember you agreeing to it. Person B, I think you're getting confused again. Maybe you're just feeling stressed and imagining things. Okay, so this is the very, very classic example. This can also be experienced by women to some extent when they're on their period. And someone might just use that as a tactic to be like, hey, you must be really stressed. You're on your period. You're imagining things. You're overreacting. You're being super emotional. That's something that, if that's not the case and someone's using that as a case, that's an area to watch out for. Not to say that sometimes, a woman may be more stressed or emotional during that time, so not ruling that out, but just, notice that could be an area where maybe we're projecting things that might not be there, and manipulating the situation. Or the classic cheating on someone, and your partner noticing the signs, and you say, oh, it's in your head. Like, of course I love you. Of course I'm not doing anything, but secretly you're cheating. Or lying. You might start off with like an unintentional little lie. It was just easier to do it. And it doesn't even have to be a big lie. It could be a little lie. And then, you tell your partner something, and then they start seeing signs, or you've been caught in a lie before, like a little tiny lie. And now you've said another little tiny lie just accidentally. And now, they're picking up signs that you might be lying, and you have to keep telling them, kind of telling them they're crazy for thinking you're lying, even though you are lying, and their signs that they're picking up are accurate. So these are other ways that this dynamic can show up again. So if we were to unpack maybe some signs, if someone is engaging in this behavior ourselves, it could be, denying or minimizing someone's feelings or experiences, saying, things like,
for it to be gaslighting, does the person have to know they're lying?
So the intentionality of it,
Yeah.
I think, is an interesting question, and I think it's up for discussion. So I don't know.
In the first situation,
yeah.
What if they just memories aren't facts; they're not perfect. What if they actually remembered stuff differently? To me, the only gaslighting in that first situation was, oh, you must be imagining things. The rest of it was like, no, that's not how I remembered it. Oh, people remember stuff differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're going to unpack some Reddit questions that actually explore that a bit. And the intentionality part sometimes may be intentional, where and sometimes you don't know. Your memory is off, or you might think and you might be wrong. So in situations like that, I'll give you the cheat code answer now, is if there is a memory issue where you're genuinely not sure, and someone's like, hey, I think I remember this, and you're like, I think I don't remember that, then, if this is the first time something like this has happened, you can come to some compromise and, blame memory. But the main thing is you need to both acknowledge that this isn't a good situation to be in again. And let's make sure this doesn't happen, and put things in place, like that growth piece again, to show what can we do to make sure we don't end up in this place again. Maybe we write down agreements that are important, or I don't know, I don't know what the dynamic is, but something that can more concretely, objectively catch what we're doing. Like maybe we create a voice message together, or write something down, or take a picture of something, or maybe like tell a third person, even though that's a bit risky because memory is unreliable. So, but just like take some sort of action to avoid that happening again. Usually, this happens with this memory issue. Usually, people would let it go if there was like a memory issue once or twice, and it's when it happens a couple of times that usually people speak up and say, "Hey, I feel like it's like I don't know, like, am I delusional, or is this happening like a few times now?"
Okay, I got you. So it sounds like you're gonna talk about it more later, and I may have jumped the gun a little.
Yeah, but it's a good question because it's not clear if it's intentional or not from the definition. I would say in majority of cases it is intentional, and people do know. But memory is, when you study memory, like in psychology, you understand how unreliable memory is. So there is an element of that I'm just going to give a bit of grace on. But how you handle the situation is really important. Does that cover it for now?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, sounds good. At any point, you guys, if you have a question, put your hand up, unmute. I'm all for that. It's all about making sure that we get the most out of this session. So some signs that you might be engaging in gaslighting behavior yourself, or if you want to notice when it's happening with someone else, is denying or minimizing. So downplaying someone's feelings or experiences, saying things like you're overreacting, that it didn't happen like that, or twisting facts, saying you might distort events or manipulate information to make the other person doubt their memory or perception of reality, blaming the other instead of taking responsibility. You shift the blame onto others, making them feel guilty or responsible for your actions. Invalidating feelings, you might dismiss the other person's emotions, saying things like, you're too sensitive, you're imagining things, using confusion or contradiction. So you might constantly change your story and act as if the person is misunderstanding or causing them to doubt themselves. I know this can happen in a workplace too. I know personally I experienced this in a workplace where my manager would say something and we would be in a meeting, and then we would do it, and then she would be like, "Why are you doing it like that? No one told you to do it like that." And we would be like, "You told us to do it like that," literally, like in our last weekly meeting. And she would be like, "No, I didn't." And then so one way we tried to address that was to write down meeting notes. And so we did. And then so we tried to use that and be like, "Hey, it's actually written in the meeting notes here. You said this." And then how she got out of that again was to say that we recorded her message wrong. So this, like, if someone wants to gaslight you, like, and they're not taking accountability or trying to improve the situation, they can just constantly undercut you and make you think like you're imagining things and you're the one that's incompetent and doing, the wrong thing. So just be aware of that. So there are some people out there that use this, and it's not just romantic relationships. It could be with any of the people around you. So keep an eye out for that. Withholding information. So you might hide details or keep secrets, leading to the other person to question their own knowledge or intuition, projecting your behavior onto others. So you might accuse the other person of the behavior that you're actually guilty of, making them feel like they're the ones at fault. So essentially, if you notice yourself doing any of these things, you want to take a step back, reflect on your actions, apologize, and take responsibility for your actions, and improve future behavior so it doesn't happen again. Some other, gaslighting, can happen to anyone from any background, of any personality type. So we can't really pin it down and be like, these sorts of people are like this. So that's why we kind of got to watch out for everybody in our environment, or ourselves too, in case it's happening to us. But there are some things that might help us a little bit figure out who's more likely to do this. So if we want to have a little more red flags for people that might have some of these attributes, again, it's not definitive, but something that might help us identify patterns. If someone has narcissistic tendencies, they're more likely to engage in gaslighting for power and control over others.
What is a narcissistic tendency? I feel like I can't use that.
Right. So prioritizing their own needs and desires above other people's. So if it's like usually the one that like the whole world revolves around them, and if they don't have their way, they're going to get upset, and it doesn't really matter how you feel. Everything is about them. You need to make them feel good. So it's kind of like that huge imbalance of you not feeling heard and everything being about them, and then when you do bring it up, you're still not heard, and it's still twisted to be about them. Does that kind of make sense?
Okay. So it's like if I feel like there's some sort of imbalance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and usually it's a like significant imbalance for it to kind of be like narcissistic, because there isn't like the percentage of narcissistic people is like the in the literal definition is like 2% of people or something. So it's actually not that much, but it's a spectrum. So people can have narcissistic tendencies or have it at certain times, and it can fluctuate. We all might experience it a little bit, but it's kind of like, where does your normal sit on this spectrum?
I'm with you.
Yeah. So watch out for like narcissistic tendencies, manipulative individuals. So people that are actually skilled at manipulation, they might actually use intentionally gaslighting as a tactic to get their goals without having to be accountable for their actions.
So once again, how do I know someone is a skilled manipulator?
So sometimes they slip and they'll tell you, like, I was so easy manipulating her to do that. So sometimes it is that obvious where like you might hear, they won't be saying it about you, but they'll be telling you about how they manipulated someone else. And so that might be a sign to be like, hey, all right, this person is okay with manipulating this other person in this situation. So kind of, where do their values and morals lie, and where is the boundary? Would they do that to me, and what situations would they do that in? So just like when you see that someone really wants something, they have a goal, to what means are they willing to go to make that happen? So some people are willing to, hurt other people to get ahead. And that's signs that you can see if someone's capable of that, willing to do that. And so that can help guide you if someone might have manipulative behavior tendencies in them.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you again.
One other example I can think of is if someone finds pleasure from your pain, like to get what they want, and you are showing distress, and like strong uncomfortability, and someone is pushing past that for their own personal gain and growth, that's another sign of someone being capable of manipulating. Sorry, I can think of another one too. Like usually people that are really charismatic and might show that they're this amazing person at the beginning, and then you get to know them and they're like this horrible person. If you're hearing stories of people like that around you, then that's also a sign that there's some manipulation maybe involved. Obviously none of these are concrete, but these are signs that something is not matching the reality, and maybe they did that for some sort of personal gain to get something that they wanted.
It's all about the risk.
Healthy risk is good. We're all about the healthy risk. Insecure individuals. So that might be another area that someone might be more likely to gaslight. So some individuals who feel insecure or threatened by others' emotions or perspectives could resort to gaslighting for self-protection and their own sense of superiority. So kind of like the idea of, if you feel bad about yourself, you want to bring other people down to feel good about yourself. And so that's really unhealthy if someone's doing that. And it's kind of like that, misery loves company thing, where they don't want to see other people succeed. They want everyone to feel bad about themselves, so then they can feel like they're not alone and they can feel better, which is not great. And I want you guys to know that not all insecure people are like this, or not all people that have gone through trauma are like this. There are amazing people that don't react like this, but in some situations people do when they feel insecure. So good to know. People with poor communication skills, they might just lack the ability to communicate. So they're just like, I am going to trick you to thinking I'm right because I don't know how to verbally joust you properly, to get what I want. God. So this could even be like a skills deficit, or this could even be a position of power situation where people who hold authority or influence, or could even be your parents, employers, leaders. They might use gaslighting to control others and kind of like reinforce their own dominance. So power play dynamics might be another area where you might notice this, where you might feel like they're saying you're delusional, or hopefully you're not doing this to feel like you're in power and control. So these are kind of like the main areas that it might show up. But again, the conclusion on this one is, please look out for growth, like the growth attribute. So even if someone is doing something like this and it's addressed, if they can healthily acknowledge it and be able to improve, that's something that is important, because we all make mistakes and we all improve, but we need to take accountability and take our part in it and actually show in our actions, not just our words. So any questions before we jump into our Reddit questions for the night? Awesome.
I don't have a question, but I did have a comment. Because narcissists are something that I'm very fascinated by, and I find as I'm starting to become a bit more active in the socials, that they're becoming a bit more problematic sometimes for me. I know we're not supposed to diagnose narcissists, but I mean, we're human, right?
Yeah.
We try to figure these things out. And I think some narcissists, whether it's in a relationship like a romantic, as we tend to talk about in this space, or just in any relationship like in a community or something, Some of them are really good at hiding it because they will tend to use different means to gain the control that narcissists want. I think narcissists tend to want to feel in control, and they it's almost like a drug to them sometimes. And some even find joy in the manipulation itself, like feeling like you're one-upping people. And it really can be one of those where you don't really know that they are a narcissist until you actually see things going wrong. Like when everything's good, they're like, oh, everything. But then when things start going wrong, they start pointing fingers. And you start to really see, I think you really learn the people's true colors when times are tough. So I think, when you're in a relationship with someone, sometimes you wonder, how could you end up with a relationship with someone like that? And I think it's really difficult to get a read on people, at first, because they're so good at reading people and reading the room, and navigating and knowing how to say kind of the right things. And it can take some time for those true colors to really come out.
No, I agree. And I want to unpack this a little further because it is an interesting topic and you're also interested in it too. So when we got taught in school and the current data that's out there, so narcissistic personality disorder is actually it's a disorder in the the Mental Health Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, like the 5th edition. So it's actually like
the 5th edition.
Just trying to be accurate here, so. And like the percentage of people that actually get diagnosed with this is 0.5 to 1%. So it's a very low percentage. But not the word narcissist actually gets thrown around a lot and very commonly. And so psychologists that understand the dynamic of mental health properly understand that all of this stuff in mental health is dimensional. And so people can definitely show different levels of this, and not saying that any of it is good, but like it's definitely a spectrum. So you have to see like the people that you're dealing with, like how much of it do they have. So if we were to actually unpack the symptoms, if someone's going to be diagnosed as with a narcissistic personality disorder, they would have symptoms of things like grandiosity with expectations of superior treatment from others. So, that is like a new level of, narcissistic, where they literally expect to be treated better than others. They're fixated on fantasies of power, success, intelligence, attractiveness. So, fixated means like they're kind of obsessed with that. Their self-perception of being unique or superior is associated with high status people and institutions, needing constant admiration from others, sense of entitlement and special treatment, and to be obedient, to get obedience from others, exploitation of others to achieve personal gain, unwilling to empathize with the feelings, wishes, and needs of other people, envious of others, believing that others are envious of them, arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. And a lot of this stuff, again, comes down to functionality. Like, is all of this stuff affecting their lives to the point where they're dysfunctional and they can't live a normal life? So hopefully, like, hearing that, you realize, okay, someone has to be really
like half of those things, right?
Really?
I feel like most people
No, these are like a whole nother level.
I mean, like, let's look at it.
Which ones stand out to you?
I think I'm a unique person.
Okay, all right. So this is a dimension, right? So everyone's unique. That's not like a special narcissistic thing to think you're unique. Everyone's unique. There's way more to it than just feeling unique.
Let me try to find another one.
Okay.
There are definitely people who I envy. I'm like, man, like that person has got a good head on their shoulders. I wish I could do like, research as well as they could.
Right. And feeling envy is a human like emotion. So that is also normal. But when it starts getting out of control, like for it to be included as a thing is like you're envious and believe others are envious of you. So pretty much you're envious of every person's success and you think everyone who's successful is envious of you. And that dysfunctionally affects your life. Like imagine, so this would work if you...
I think Polly's got a...
Oh yeah, Polly, go for it.
No, you can finish your point.
I appreciate you. So, for example, Armand, if you were like envious of research papers written by other people, and they're like,
every time I like see a paper that's got like hundreds of citations, I was like, man, if I could, let me just read this, go back in time, write it myself.
Right. So let's say you experience that, and it becomes dysfunctional if you now can't work on your own paper because you're so envious of these other people, where you're like so caught up in your head by envy, and you're like, if I was in that position, everyone would also be envious of me, and that just consumes your time and energy. And I feel that you are still functional in your PhD and in your life. And, you know, we don't spend 80% of our conversation where you're like, why can't I be like, I don't know, this author. Sergey.
All of the Sergeys are so good.
Yeah. Like if this was 90% of our conversations, then I would agree with Armand and be like, I think this is one symptom of narcissism that might be going on. Maybe we should talk about it to make your life a little more functional. But again, with these things, like, you know, I listed out a whole bunch of symptoms specific to, you know, narcissistic personality disorder. But you don't just, if you have one of these in a dysfunctional form, it doesn't mean you're immediately diagnosed. You need to have like a whole bunch of these as like a threshold that you need to pass. So even if you identify with like one or two of these, that's not enough to identify you as one. And also, how long do you experience it? Like if you're experiencing it for years, or you feel like this is your identity, that's much more accurate than someone who's just like, I've identified with this for one day. You know, so, and it's just like, how much time do you spend consumed in this is also important. Paulie, go for it. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no, thank you for the conversation.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think with narcissists, I think what it boils down to, if I had to go to like what really defines a narcissist, because you're right, you guys are right. Like we all have narcissistic tendencies, right? Like we all at the end of the day, we're looking out for ourselves. You know, as animals, we got to care for ourselves, but we're also capable of empathy and experiencing happiness through the success of others. And I think really at a narcissist core, everything they do ultimately comes down to trying to help them, you know, even if what they're doing will help others, right? It can be a side effect, right? That is when that is a convenient thing, like, oh, I'm going to rise up through politics because I can help everybody. And, you know, my goal is to help the greater good. And that's going to bring me power. And of course, I might have to step on some toes to do it, but it's for the greater good. You know, I think narcissists will ultimately always look out for their own interest. And when put into a situation where their own interest will be compromised, I think at their core, they ultimately will always have to look for self-preservation. And we throw around that word narcissist a lot, and we do. It is not nearly as many. You know, I used to think I knew more narcissists. Now I feel like you know, you guys come off like a narcissist, you know, in any given moment, depending on the day, the situation, who you're dealing with. This is a really complex thing to navigate because, you know, we're complicated creatures, and when you're talking about manipulators, it can be really difficult to know who's doing the manipulating. You can start to think you're the one, you know. But one thing I learned, I remember reading was, if you're asking if you're the narcissist, it's probably a good sign that you're not. Yeah. You know, because they most likely didn't ask that question. They don't like going down that road. So just one of those things I like to mention, because that's a thing I had to think about in my relationship, where I had to ask, am I the narcissist? Am I the one who's being difficult? And while clearly I did have things I was doing that could have been better, asking myself that question was really helpful.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is such a good point, and it's such a one-liner that people can really identify with. So I really appreciate you mentioning it. And absolutely, someone who does question if they're the narcissist is really less likely to be the one that's actually the narcissist, because to a narcissist, that they wouldn't even be thinking about that. They would be like, why is everyone like, you know, all of these other things, and why aren't they making me happy, and I'm like so much better than everyone else, and things like that. So absolutely, I'm so glad you figured it out for yourself, and realize that you are not that person, and reassess the people in your life. And I think you did that, which is amazing. Awesome. Let's jump into some Reddit questions. So 39-year-old male, 28-year-old female, and the title is, my boyfriend and I had an argument last night. And the details are, it started out as a discussion with me saying I wasn't happy with XYZ, and that I want certain things to change if we are going to stay together. The whole conversation got flipped around on me, and he was completely deflecting everything I said. No answers, no acknowledgement, no nothing. Just how me bringing it up was making him feel. At one point, I said, I'm done letting you gaslight me. Let me know when you actually want to talk. He flipped his lid, told me I didn't even know what gaslighting means, and that if I did, I'd know he'd never do that to me. Am I gaslighting or accusing someone of gaslighting, or have I misunderstood the meaning? Is this gaslighting? So if I had to, so we can definitely unpack that, if this is a gaslighting or not. But the main thing I want you guys to pick up in this story, and if you've been to those spaces before, hopefully this will jump out at you like it does for me. What is the big thing here? What is the main rule of thumb that's being violated here? Does anyone know, or does anyone want to unmute themselves and know what is the main thing in this dynamic of this Reddit question that's not being respected right now? Does anyone know?
I don't know if I know the thing you're thinking of, but one thing that I've remembered from some of the previous spaces was talking about feelings and respecting them. So she opens up and he responds with how he feels. And this is a weird, this is one of those weird scenarios where I'm trying to actually piece together what that moment looks like, because it's not necessarily wrong that he's sharing how what she tells him makes him feel, but there's very clearly an unhealthy dynamic between the two, right? Like, I really would like to hear how that conversation went, like, because I feel like I'm falling short on really grasping. I could see in this scenario, I could see either of them being wrong, depending on how the conversation goes, But his response in saying, if you knew what gaslighting was, you wouldn't be saying that, does feel like gaslighting. Like you're basically saying you're dumb, because if you were smarter, you'd know that this is not what that is.
Right.
It really does feel like textbook gaslighting. So I am leaning more towards her side. But with the way these things go in relationships, it's hard to know how their relationship has led up to this point.
Yep, for sure.
But in this moment, I am leaning towards her side. I'll say that.
Okay, interesting. I appreciate you. Good insight. Armand, do you know what is the main rule of thumb that...
I know what you're going to say.
Dang it. Did you read what I was going to write?
No, I was trying to read the situation again because I missed what the issue was, but it just said we argued about X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh, okay. That's...
Okay, wait. Okay, I'll read the important part to you again.
They argued, and the guy was like, you're making me feel sad.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you're gaslighting me. He's like, you don't know what gaslighting is.
Good. So what is the main problem? What is the main rule of thumb violation here that I always talk about?
The main rule of thumb is like, hey, man, if you don't know the definition of the word, just look it up.
No, you guys are all off. Okay, so the main...
Maybe I know. I'm just gaslighting you. Oh, we found a good scenario to guess. I don't even know.
No, it's okay. No, Baze. We're going to use the correct usage of gaslighting. Okay.
It's about who's upset first. You got to resolve one person's upsetness at a time.
Wait a second. Did you just come out of nowhere with that, or where did that come from?
Bro, that's the answer to this question.
Did you know that?
Yeah, man.
Did you read my answer?
No. Why do you keep thinking?
Yeah, no.
Because you gaslighted me.
No.
I did gaslight you very briefly.
Yeah, because last week or the week before, you had made the point, when you come into a situation where the person is upset, deal with that person's emotions first.
Yeah.
Because if two people are upset, you're never going to resolve it. So, yeah, okay.
Yes.
We got there.
Amazing. So the discussion starts with the girl saying, I wasn't happy with XYZ. So she's talking about her feelings, like, I'm not happy. She's identifying the behavior and she wants things to change. And then he flips out, says how he's really upset and doesn't do anything to make her feel like anything's going to improve. And then she goes and throws, acid on the fire or whatever it is to blow up the fire, and says, you're gaslighting me, which I would hope that if you're having this, if you're in this dynamic, saying gaslighting as the girl is not a helpful thing in your communication skills to improve the situation. So I would have encouraged her, if I could, to avoid saying that in the moment. And because, this is just, this is more him deflecting her emotions by feeling his emotions without addressing her emotions first. So he's kind of avoiding her emotions by talking about his own, which, gaslighting is making the other person feel delusional. And majority of the time it's intentional. So in this situation, she said it was gaslighting. I don't think his intention was gaslighting her, if I had to guess. So I would be like, it would have been better if she didn't say it. And then, he flipped out and was like, you don't even know what gaslighting means, which, again, that could be misinterpreted as, he's saying she's delusional and trying to make her feel like she's crazy, which that could be falling under gaslighting. But her intention was probably not to make, intention again might not be for him to make her feel like she's delusional. So it gets very complicated. So please, hopefully from this one, you realize that avoid using gaslighting if you're not sure. Like, if you're really sure, use it. But in other ways, there's other ways you can fix the communication that are much simpler and not going to complicate it, because gaslighting is almost a character attack. So we want to be very careful with using that word. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, gaslighting is a very emotionally charged word, it feels like, in our culture.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's almost like a character attack, even though it's a behavioral statement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you think someone is gaslighting you, like, should you even use that terminology? Is it just going to throw fuel onto the fire? Is there something else you should say?
Yeah, I think most of the time it throws fuel on the fire, because in healthy relationships, like if you're trying to work with someone through it, your default setting should normally be they have my best intention at heart. So as soon as you say someone is gaslighting you, you are attacking their intentions, and you're saying not only are they, trying to attack my character, but they're also attacking my intentions. And maybe the person's intentions was not to hurt you at all or manipulate you. They just felt like their emotions weren't being hurt or something like that. Or, they just didn't understand that the rule of thumb helps them, address one person at a time so they can resolve conflict better. So I think this is more like we need to figure out as a society how to, communicate better, and have, better communication skills than to use things like gaslighting, because it's a very, like Armand said, a charged word, and unless you're really sure it's happening, it's way better not to discuss it, because now that they've thrown in the word gaslighting and the other person's like, no, it's not gaslighting, you're gaslighting. Like now we're talking about gaslighting, and it's like, why are we even talking about gaslighting when we need to be talking about the behavior that's upset me, that we need to address? And then if you're also feeling feelings that you want me to improve on, that's what we should be putting our focus on. And as soon as now that we're arguing about gaslighting, both of our heart rates are going up. Both of us are not going to be able to be in a mental state to resolve this problem. This is going to drag out. This is going to mean we're going to have way more negative interactions. Our healthy magic ratio is going to be off. And, we have to come back from this. So in this case, I would lean towards neither of them even using the word gaslighting, because I think intentions matter. And I don't think either of them had the intention to hurt the other person or manipulate the other person. So I would say both of them are out of line here. Focus on your actual problems. The gaslighting was not one of them. It's just we need to address the issues. And Polly, go for it.
Yeah, I think I think we naturally, when we hear the word gaslighting, someone says we're gaslighting, they're like passively calling us a narcissist, and it's a question of character, like you said, and when you feel your character being questioned like that, like if you're in a conversation and someone suggests you're a sexist or a racist or one of these things that are not good, it brings in this emotional response, right? Because if you feel you're a good person and you have good intentions, now you have someone claiming that you're not.
Mhm.
And when you say, like you were just saying, when they say you're gaslighting, well, if I feel like I'm the good person, which if I'm a narcissist, I also probably think I'm the good person as well. So there's that little wrinkle in the whole
Yeah.
thing. You're going to have, now it's like, well, are you gaslighting me?
Mhm.
So now there's this whole different dynamic entering, like, well, I have good intentions and you're calling me a bad person, or are you doing that because you're the manipulator? And now both people are in a really weird predicament where you're both questioning each other's intentions. And if it gets really bad, you might start questioning your own intentions. And it's your point to just not use that word, I think is smart, because those words bring out that emotional response. And when that heart rate goes up, like you said, the logic and the reasoning all kind of goes out the door. We get into our fight and flight mode, and it turns into a war zone real quick.
Exactly. That's so valuable for us to understand. And, because in this day and age, it's so easy to throw around these words, on social media to people around us, and it can cause a lot of damage. And then, like you said, we're arguing about the wrong things. Like if we're going to argue, we might as well do it about something that can be improved, to make our relationship better. And this is not one you want to get into, especially if you're questioning the other person's intent, unless you're really sure that they've, that they're doing this and their intentions are also there, and we need to address it at its core so it's improved. So there are, for example, I have helped a couple where the person would do little lies, and these little lies would be so frustrating to the partner, and they would be about the stupidest, dumbest little things, but the person just wanted to avoid arguments, and that was deep stemmed into a lot of things from their history, where they just wanted to keep the status quo. They know they're not doing anything wrong because there's such small things that they're lying about, but it's just like, and they were deleting messages and saying like, no, I haven't deleted messages, or no, you must, that must have been a technology error, or something like that. And a person can very easily think, well, they must be cheating on me, or they must be doing all these things, or like, why are they lying about these little things? Why can't they just do the simple thing of being honest? So sometimes, like, even though you might not want to hurt your partner, in those millimeter moments where you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to have a horrible argument with your partner because that's your dynamic, you choose the little lie, and then you try and cover it up. And so like there are situations like that where, and then the whole time that you're asking them, can you tell me the truth? Are you lying to me? All of that is gaslighting. So if something like that is happening, like it's okay to identify what's going on, because you feel like you're going crazy in that situation when you're not going crazy. It's the other person. So there are times where you can use this word, but like I would say majority of the time, it is highly charged word that can be associated with narcissism, really strong, like, character attacks. So let's avoid it as much as we can. There's another one that I would like to end today on, which is a bit of a funny one. So it's a 27-year-old female and a 30-year-old female. And the title is "My Wife Keeps Saying I'm Gaslighting Her." And the situation is, while she's looking in the mirror, she made a comment saying, "Damn, I look good today. I got to say it to myself because no one else would." I then responded with, "I literally have complimented you 3 times this morning." And then she was like, "No, you didn't." And I said, "I told you the color looks really good on you." Then she went on with, "You're gaslighting me." She always says that every time I prove a point or provide her with a reason, if she even lets me get my point across. This may seem silly, but it is a constant occurrence for her to keep saying I'm gaslighting her. Is it just me or what? Any responses would be appreciated. I want to throw this one to Omid, being a little quiet today. What do you think about this one?
I think that like it's very interesting. But like it's very I think that like it's very like one-sided. Because like one of them is putting in like effort, and then like the other person is like, for what it sounds like, dismissing like the effort that they're putting in, and like trying to like convince them that they're putting like an equal amount of effort.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Love it. So and like the big thing that pops out at me with this one is I like this one because it's a bit comedic, so I put it in there, especially as the last Reddit question for today. But the main reason I put this in today is because look how easily it's slipped into this couple's relationship, where one person has to hear that the other person is calling them a gaslighter frequently, and for things as simple as like not the other person not telling you look good or complimenting you, and them just trying to explain times when they did and you calling them gaslighting you, like that is not appropriate. And so we really need to be careful not to fall into these habits, because it's such a slippery slope. You can say it once, and maybe you call someone that they're gaslighting you, and they just take a step back because it's such a shock to their system, they heard it, and maybe they give you the thing you want and you're like, oh wow, like this feels like power, I'm going to use this again, and I'm going to call them gaslighting me anytime anything happens that I don't feel good about it. And then, it can become a habit, and, it's a controlling habit. And it's actually the person saying that the other person is a gaslighter that is doing the gaslighting, because they like what happened, the consequences of what happened, that the other person falls in line. And so that's, and it can be something as simple as, you didn't compliment me this morning and I have to tell myself I look good. So even down to the simplicity of that, we can hear it. So, we really, really need to be careful, especially with tiny problems like this. We use our good communication skills to address them, and not use heavy duty words that are going to really amplify the problem, this relationship problem to be so much bigger than it actually is. So, Omid, let's tackle this. Let's say I say something passive aggressive to you. Damn, I look good today. I look in the mirror and I say, damn, I look good today. I got to say that to myself because no one else would. So let's say I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm being passive aggressive in front of you, hoping to get your attention, get a reaction from you, for you to tell me I look beautiful or something like that. Now, what is a way that you could respond to this that would be healthy?
Damn. Wait, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. Because it says that I'm still muted. Damn, girl, you're looking so fine. I can see that you've actually taken time to change your hair and your outfit. You're looking smoky.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I feel like
smoky.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I feel like you would just give me exactly what I wanted in that moment, and I would also be let off the hook for being passive aggressive to you. So let's say you do that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet, I really appreciate you, you should do that every day or whatever. And then let's say literally the next morning I say the exact same thing as well. Damn, I look good today. I need to say it to myself because no one else would, or maybe I change the wording a little bit. What do you do? How do you respond to that the second time?
Am I still trying to be comforting, or?
Well, you're trying to address this in a healthy way with healthy relationship skills. So let's say I'd be passive aggressive again the next day or soon after, and I say something similar again. How do you handle it?
Babe, listen, I don't like the tone of voice. I don't like the fact that you're being passive aggressive, but I also recognize that you have changed your appearance and you are looking good. You are looking fine. And you're doing all of that for me, and I appreciate that. And I hope that you also appreciate my opinion.
Nice. So that's good. You call me out this time. You say I'm being passive aggressive. You mention it's my tone as well. So that's good. And then, so, I don't think I quite heard you say like it makes you feel bad when I don't know, sad,
He said he doesn't like
he doesn't like it. Okay. It's almost there. But if you brought feelings into it, it would make it a little easier to empathize with you, because no one can question how you feel. But if you say you don't like it, well, someone can be a bit like, oh, too bad you don't like it. I like it. But if you're like,
I feel question how you feel.
No, but they
you
can't.
You can be like, I love you. They'll be like, you don't love me. You don't know what love is.
Yeah, but everyone has the right to feel how they feel. So they can't question your feelings, because people can't control their feelings. They can control their actions. So
I guess I have a problem with your language.
I think it might be my language. Do you want to unpack this further, or you're good?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Polly,
go for it. I see your hand.
So first and foremost, if my girl's sitting there looking in the mirror going, damn, I look good, there's a red flag. The way she said that, and then going immediately into passive aggressive, like you said, yeah, this I'm probably leaving, because this is not a good sign. Like there are more healthy ways when passive aggressiveness is coming into it like that. So I mean, the arrogance, like, and even if she's being sarcastic, like this need for your partner to, oh my God, you are just the most incredible specimen I've ever seen. Like, and they've complimented you multiple times that day, and you're still like, you're like an addict that constantly needs this gratification, this pointing out of your appearance and this and that. I don't know. This girl feels like I I know I'm going down assumption alley, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I get bad vibes from this girl. It's bad juju. Yeah. I commend Omid for his carefully worded and kind words. But I think it's not going to take too long before he's getting pissed off and responding in such a way, and that is when the gaslighting really comes, right? Where now he's overreacting. I feel like that's how this would unfold. I could be wrong, of course, but my mind is unpacking this and using the filters that I have, and this is just a really weird one. It's very weird. I don't feel like this is a healthy relationship, and I'm not sure if this is a him problem. It could be. I mean, he's of course he's sending this in, right? He could be, twisting it. We don't know. We're just going off this word, assuming that this is the case. If he's the narcissist, then he probably lied. But the way he presented it, this I think this guy might be in for some trouble moving forward.
Yeah.
I don't like this. I wouldn't do that to my partner. Granted, I'm a guy, so maybe, I would view this different than a girl would, but this feels like red flag city for me.
Yeah. So I think, this is not a great sign of someone, this behavior is not a great sign for sure. I can definitely agree with you with that. Actually, so they were both women. So it seems like they were a lesbian couple, both women. And so the complaint was actually that she was calling her wife, gaslighting her. So even like the gender thing can come out of this one, because it's even two women and they're still having this issue. But I think the main thing when I hear this one that I want to take away from it is welcome, Chris, happy to have you here. So the main thing that I would like to take away from this one is, let's just say this was for her flaw. Let's, we're in assumption alley, but let's assume everything else about this woman is amazing and she has this one flaw that, she doesn't feel like, she isn't complimented enough, so she's giving the compliments to herself. So in this situation, the healthiest way to address it, that this is the thing I want you to take away from this Reddit question, is it seems like she doesn't feel like she's receiving the compliments we're giving her. There seems to be some mismatch between our effort and how she's perceiving love. So, if a partner is trying 3 times that morning to make her feel beautiful and complimenting her, and she hasn't heard any of it and still feels like she needs to give it to herself, there is some mismatch there. And so, we could always go down the thing that, this person has way more issues and let's not even get involved. But if we were trying to just think of this like, maybe in this situation it's about appearance, maybe something else, it could be about something else very easily, and the dynamic would be the same, just a different situation. So in situations like that, a really good way to address it is, hey, like, I do think you look beautiful, but the way you spoke to me, like, that was passive aggressive. It didn't appreciate your phone. That made your tone. It made me feel hurt. But I think that it seems like my intention obviously is to make you feel beautiful, or complimented and loved. Like, my intention is to make you feel loved, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. So I want to clarify. Like, when I say things like, that color looks really good on you, do you feel loved by statements like that, or am I just being completely ineffective with that? What is the ideal response you want to hear? And a lot of the times when we get really specific like this and ask, hey, what is it that you actually want to feel loved? Sometimes it's so simple. And maybe it was like, hey, I just wanted a hug this morning and I didn't get it. Or, I don't know. Like, it could be all sorts of things. There's so many responses that this could be. But we're getting really down to what is the person appreciating is love, not what you think love is. And the easiest example to explain this is with gifts. So usually we gift other people what we want, and it's not what the other person wants. And it's actually, not the easiest thing to figure out what they want. And one of the best ways to get them something they want is by asking them what they actually want and then giving it to them. And then, doing that enough times where you can figure out what is the actual thing that they're looking for, and then being able to do that more spontaneously. So maybe, maybe the comment that she doesn't want to hear about the color, maybe she just wants to hear, once a week, that she is beautiful, and that you've actually never said she is beautiful. You compliment the color, you compliment her hair, you maybe compliment other things, but like, that is the thing that she's been missing. And then you're like, oh wow, so great, I know that now, I can implement that. And I want you guys to notice the difference in the discussion when we're talking about the real issue, rather than going off in so many different tangents and assuming so many different things. So whenever something feels off, something doesn't make sense, like, why is my effort not being appreciated? Why are they still wanting more? This can apply to so many different contexts. Address it. Be like, hey, my intention is to love you. I'm doing all these things. It doesn't seem like it's hitting home. What is it that would make you feel loved and appreciated? And let's talk about that. And I would appreciate in the future, instead of, saying comments like this, which, hurt my feelings, just let me know I don't feel loved, and like, this is what I need. And I would be more than happy to have that discussion and implement that in my actions. And then we are having so much healthier conversations. We're not making passive aggressive comments like this about our beauty. We're not feeling like our justifications aren't being heard. So really, like, that few millimeters of being different, with how we address it, has such a huge difference in the reaction of this problem that we're going to have in our lives. And this is how small problems get out of control really easily. And now we might be, you know, thinking they're a horrible person or something like that. Obviously, that we would have so much more information, and we don't in this case. But it's so easy for little things to get out of control like this, if we just don't have the right skills and the right millimeters in the conversation to talk about the right things to address. So hopefully that was a good takeaway from this last one, where it was a really simple one, but we had to make sure that we took the right step with it, which isn't always intuitive, and it rarely is. And that's how a lot of little things just spiral out of control, and how a lot of relationships can break up. Like, imagine you found the woman of your dreams or the man of your dreams, and then they had like this little tendency where they like do this, and you feel like they're impossible, and then you throw the relationship away because you don't know how to navigate situations like this, and then they keep stacking on each other, and then you feel misunderstood all around. You feel like they don't care, but then again, you also might have met someone who is trying to gaslight you, and you want to actually escape those people. So you just got to see what you're actually dealing with. Obviously, to assess the whole person, you want to be with a high quality person to begin with, and everything is so much easier when you're with a high quality person, because Polly, like you said, they wouldn't make passive aggressive comments like this. They would be more direct with their feelings, but we can't assume everyone has good communication skills. So that's why always leave that little room for improving our own behavior, to make sure that we are assessing situations the best we can and navigating the best we can, so we can have much more room for positive interactions in our relationship and lives and all of that good stuff. Anything anyone else wanted to bring up today about gaslighting? Anything that these Reddit questions brought up for them? I don't know, anything they want to say they took away from it? This is your moment, Paulie. Go for it.
No, it's actually slightly off topic and more interesting thing, but it is related to this most recent one. And I don't necessarily think we're gonna come up with any answers for it, but an interesting thing I've heard, statistics, because it's a lesbian couple, right? We had in this, and some statistics have actually shown that lesbian couples actually deal with the highest percentages of not only divorce but reports of abuse in relationships, which I think is an interesting. It's an interesting thing to me, because we think about dynamics in relationships, and I don't know if you were to ask someone guess which relationship would have those things. I'm not sure that's the dynamic that our brains would go to. Right. So when you mentioned that they were, a lesbian couple, it's sort of that jumped in my head, that thought about, sometimes it seems like maybe in these relationships between, lesbians, for some reason, there's a tendency to be more issues than other, whether it's gay men or, male and female couples. I think it's really interesting to get into that psychological aspect of like how different, how different sort of relationships in terms of which sex the partners are might impact. I don't know if that's because of maybe how each individual came to be attracted to, they're attracted to, if there's maybe history growing up of, who they were attracted to and because of why. But that just popped in my head is when you said that. It was an interesting aspect because we have two women, and one is showing a real push for affection and love from their partner. It's such an interesting dynamic. I'd be fascinated to actually understand more. It's in, because our brains naturally go to two women together. That must be such a loving and passionate relationship. Women are so much more emotionally intelligent and loving and caring. And then you hear about these stories or see those statistics, and it's like, wait, well, what? That doesn't really compute for me. It's interesting just to think we can't just assume that we can look at a couple and know everything's going to be good because, they're this.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I know, for example, in the US, gay marriage has been, more of a recent thing that's been legalized. And so the data probably is still a little early for significant correlation, significant differences to show up yet. But I think there is data starting to show that there is a difference with the divorce rates with same-sex couples. With lesbians, I know that there's some data that shows that they might be getting divorced more, but in other places say the jury is still out. There's not enough data yet. But even when I was in school and they were training us on the differences between different gender marriages, there are some differences to some extent, and obviously they're not. They're not going to apply to every person. They're just generalizations, of course, with this stuff. But some of the things that I, from memory, remember being different is, usually there would be more little arguments between two women in comparison to two men, whereas men were more direct in their conversation, which being direct is very helpful for good communication. So they did great there. But the area that the two men struggled with was that they were so usually direct but a bit blasé with kind of the boundaries of having other sexual partners. That's where they kind of dropped the ball a little bit with making their partner feel, or their husband feel, secure, because they would think, oh, what's the harm in this? And then they would go out and think it's, and again, please don't think like I'm saying everyone's like this, but it's just a little more common for guys to have open relationships and think that they can navigate it because they're so good at speaking directly with each other that they kind of underestimate the complications that adds to a marriage, which it really does. It makes things so complicated. So they struggle in areas they are more likely to struggle in areas like that. Obviously, both of
boys will be boys.
Yeah, well, hopefully, they can learn to have good relationship skills. But yeah, so each of them, everyone has room to grow. But it is interesting to see what dynamics come out of different genders getting together. And now there's all sorts of it's just LGBTQ plus, and it keeps going. So even the dynamic just keeps getting more complicated the more we learn about it. So it's definitely interesting seeing everything unfold. But I think at the end of the day, that we can hear all of these things, but we really got to think, for our own dynamics, like who are we dealing with, and each person is different. So some generalizations might be right, but with every new person, they might be different. So we just got to be just on the ball with that and not try and bring too much into it. But yeah, it would be interesting when there's more data out there to show these dynamics, to see what more of the differences are. I think that is an interesting conversation. So I agree with you, Polly. And it did come up in the last Reddit question, so totally fair.
Yeah, no, and yeah, to your point, like you can't just look at two people and say, I definitely know how that's going to go, right? But it is, when you have data, you can at least, it is interesting to see maybe some tendencies, and certain groups might be more inclined for certain things. I think there is a value in that. But when we start just looking and saying, well, those two girls are together, that's going to end terribly, that's not fair at all, So very, very good point by you there.
I appreciate that. Was there anything else anyone wants to bring up for today before we announce the MVFP of the night?
No, I just think it's been a great conversation. This, like I was saying, this whole gaslight narcissism thing has been something that's actually been on my mind for a bit now. So seems like you keep hitting me with stuff that has been on my mind as of late. So I don't know if you're psychic as well, but I appreciate it. So always enjoy the conversation, and looking forward to the next one.
I appreciate you. I'm really glad I'm picking topics that are interesting for people that come like you. That really means a lot. So thank you so much for the good feedback. And if there's any that you're coming up with in the next week, feel free to message me, and I can always do one on that. So awesome. The MVFP of the night is Polly. Thank you so much for coming, giving such great insight to all these things. Always being brave enough to come up and share your opinions. We really appreciate.
I want to concede to Omid for being able to handle that woman far better than I could have. Omid, you're a better man than I.
Oh my gosh, so sweet. I appreciate the love and
Then us all.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Omid, go ahead. I think you were about to say something.
Now, all I was going to say is you clearly have taken the floor by the storm. You answered the questions that were posed to you, so take it with all the glory that it gives as the last week's MVFP.
Love it. Absolutely.
We're all MVFPs today. Let's go.
No, you.
No, you, Paul. He's laughing. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you all. Have an amazing week, and we'll be here next week. Wish you all the love lives of your dreams. Bye, everyone.